Your brain looks for the things that it already thinks it knows, meaning it's looking to, fuck, that's not. Rumination is ruining your mental health. And most therapists won't even tell you this. And yes, I know it's so easy to ruminate, right? We we want to understand something more. We want to make sense of something that's upsetting to us. This relationship went wrong. I want to think about it and figure out why so I don't do it again. I don't like how that turned out. I wish I could have done something differently. Let me think about all the other ways I could have acted because that will help me not do it in the future. This topic is something I want to address because I've heard from a lot of members of our community that they spend their days and even nights just thinking about how things are going wrong or trying to, maybe this is the grief that I'm experiencing. Maybe this is me having to process another trauma. And we spend all this time trying to, like, quote unquote, work on our healing. But what we're really doing is ruminating on all the reasons we feel bad, all the things that have not gone our way. And all of that really leads us nowhere. Ruminating in many ways makes sense. It can feel good. It gives us an outlet, a way to focus our energy. And the thing about it is that it starts off being helpful. It starts off, I want to understand. It starts off with us thinking, you know what? That was really upsetting. Let me try to figure out why it was upsetting and how I can act in a different way, right? It's all productive at first. That's what I would call like the thinking phase. Thinking about something isn't so bad. Ruminating, however, is when the thinking almost takes on a life of its own and it doesn't actually take us anywhere. Remember, ruminating is often us just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about the same thing without any good outcome, without any solution. Have you ever, let's just be honest, I want to put this question out there into the ether and even asking myself, have you ever ruminated yourself into a good solution and felt better about it? No, you probably haven't, because rumination doesn't offer any new information. When we ruminate, it's often because we don't have a real explanation. We don't know why something didn't pan out. We're upset about this relationship ending, but there's nothing else we can do, right? There's just no other route. There's no extra information that we find through that process. And the reason that rumination is so easy to fall into and why it doesn't actually take us anywhere we want to go is because of something called confirmation bias. And you can look up a ton of research. I'll link some articles down there below for you to read through and have a deeper understanding if that's what you want. But essentially what confirmation bias is our brain looking out into our environment for things to confirm what it already knows. Meaning, if I believe that I was mistreated in this relationship, then I'm going to look out into the environment, even in my rumination. I'm going to look out into the past experiences I had with this person for things to confirm that belief. Because our brain is looking for what it already knows. It's looking for ways to confirm what it knows, which is also why it's really, really, really hard for us to convince someone to think differently. That's why fighting online is kind of just like an endless cycle, right? Everyone has confirmation bias. If you already think something or already believe something, it's going to be so much easier for you to read someone who thinks and believes the same way and be like, yep, yep. And then when somebody says something opposite, we're like, absolutely not, right? And so this applies to rumination, because if we're thinking about our problems all the time and we're talking about our problems all the time, that's only going to make our problems grow, because confirmation bias. If we're thinking about problems, we're focusing without realizing it on the negative. If we're talking about our problems and how everything's going wrong for us without realizing it, we're only focusing on the negative. Nobody really ruminates about the positive things, the things that they're grateful for. That's just not the way that it works, right? Because, not to get nerdy with you for a second, but the reason that we do this, the reason we focus on the negative, or what's called a negative bias, is because our nervous system is wired to protect us from any threat, right? To look into our environment for any potential threat to our physical or emotional safety, suss it out, understand it, so that we're better prepared, so that that thing or person doesn't harm us, right? So it's looking for those threats. And that means that overall, our nervous system was created to look for the things that could be going wrong, the negative things, the things that could be damaging to our physical or emotional safety. Therefore, we're going to focus on those negative things so much more easily, seeking to understand because it makes sense, right? It's like adaptive. Like our nervous system's like, hey, if I understand that, like, I don't know, like a bear growling in the woods isn't something I should walk towards, and I need to be sensing that, listening for it, and then tell you, like your nervous system's like, whoa, 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 threat, you should go the opposite direction. That makes sense. That's evolutionary. That keeps us alive, right? It's adaptive and it completely makes sense. However, when we get caught in these rumination loops, when we keep thinking and thinking and thinking about something, it doesn't bring us to a conclusion. It doesn't help us. There's no actual threat that we're running from. It's almost like we're spiraling out with the same information over and over again because we were hurt or we were upset or we are upset or we are hurt. But there's nothing we can do about it in the moment. We can't run from it. It already happened. We can't act differently. We already did that thing. And so we spin out in this kind of negativity, confirmation bias space, and we get nowhere. Now, therapists can even feed into this, which is why I think it's really important to talk about. And I feel like I need to apologize for not talking about it sooner. But cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy, so CBT and or DBT, the first thing you do if you're a therapist who practices that, you help your patient see these patterns, these rumination patterns, these thought patterns, and you work with them to break that habit, to get out of those patterns because they're not getting them anywhere. And essentially they're what we call like, unhelpful thoughts or false beliefs or, false thought patterns or unhealthy thought patterns, whatever you want to call them. It's essentially breaking us out of this cycle of rumination where we make our problems larger than they really are. And the reason for this is because what we focus on grows. What we give energy to grows. And that's kind of why, like that book, The Secret, or manifestations as a whole, do have some truth to them. The brain is an incredibly powerful tool, and what it wants to find, it will. If you ever, I've talked about this in the past, if you ever make a concerted effort to go through your life and look for the things that are going right for you, or even one time, this was like years and years ago, I made a point of every time I saw someone giving them a compliment, either out loud if I wanted to, like, hey, like your shoes, or oh, your hair looks so nice today, or internally, just thinking like, wow, that person looks really happy, cute dog, whatever, right? Giving them a compliment. Then you start to, trust me, if you want to try it, go for it. You start to find those things more quickly. Meaning I look out into my world watching a ton of people walk down the street and all I can think are positive, amazing things because it's almost like I've trained my brain to look for that by forcing it to have like a positivity bias, right? A complementary bias. And that just goes to show you that the brain is powerful and whatever we want to focus it on, it will focus on. That's why manifestations and things like The Secret do have truth to them and they do work with, somewhat, because obviously we can't just ignore all the negative and be like, everything's going to be great and I'm going to get my perfect dream job and dream house and dream life. It might not work lickety split, but I will tell you that what we focus on and what we give energy to will in fact grow. And so this is why rumination could be ruining your mental health. If we are just thinking over and over and over again about how that person was such an asshole, or that thing was really messed up, or how hurt I am, or even just digging into mental illness as a whole, like my depression, my anxiety, I want to learn all about it, we're going to only find more and more things that support that type of thought process. I'm going to find more things that feel and look like my depression. I might feel more depressed. I'm going to look out for things that are not going my way, things that could be more harmful, and I'm going to feel worse, right? And yes, I know what I'm talking about is difficult. And yes, I know, unfortunately, some mental illnesses like major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, even eating disorders or borderline personality disorder. I can think of PTSD. There's a ton of them that come, OCD, that come along with kind of this rumination or this urge to think about the negative and focus on the thing that we essentially don't want. more and more and more, right? Like I can think like depression, we focus on how bad we feel and how things aren't going well because we feel so shitty. And so it just kind of spins us out and we can't even see a light at the end of the tunnel. Or anxiety, we're constantly worrying about things going wrong and how we can prepare for that. I get it. I understand that this can be a difficult symptom to overcome, but I want to encourage you to really fight back, to give that symptom hell, to be like, you know what? I'm going to push my brain into a positive direction. Because, like I said, years and years ago, I used to focus on giving people compliments, and it completely shifted my mood and the way that I interacted with the world, and then the energy that I got back from people. I cannot tell you how life changing it was. It was so life changing that I've done that a couple of times throughout my life, like purposefully made that shift because it's been so, I don't know, like life affirming, so positive for me. And so we can shift our focus. And that's why now moving into like, okay, we're doing this, like shit, I'm ruminating. What do I do? We can easily break out of it. Here's how we stop thought cycles. I'm going to give you, I don't know, let's say 3 or 4 tips. I'm just rolling off the top of my head, so we'll see what we get to. But the first is move, get out, move your body. I don't care how able-bodied you are, do something that you can. But at the very least, I want you to get out of your house. Get out of there. It is like, it can be a dungeon. It can pull us into rumination. It's not really helpful. Get out of your house. That, I swear to God, can sometimes change your life. Also, you can do that full body shake. You know, I've talked about that, like, whoa, shaking like you're a dog out of the bath. That resets our nervous system and can pull us out of kind of that fight, flight, freeze, or where we're just like spiraling. Sometimes movement can literally shake us out of our spirals. So let's get moving. That's my first tip. I also have some notes. Hold on. I don't want to forget anything. Oh yeah, I said get out of your head. Get out of your house. Shake things up. My second tip is to tell yourself the story of one of your favorite memories. I want this to be like intensely emotionally charged in a good way. Like maybe it's a vacation you took as a kid. Maybe it's like when you finally moved into that new apartment or that new house, or when you got your puppy, your kitty, your guinea pig, whatever. I want you to remember a very positive experience that you had. And I want you to imagine telling it to me in as much detail as possible. Like, what were you wearing? What did you do earlier in that day? What do you smell? Let's use all our senses. And the reason that this pulls us out of those negative thought cycles, that rumination, is because our brain goes to what's emotional. And the more emotional ties it has, the more easily like, whoop, jerked out of that spiral we are. And that's something that I've gone back to over and over. Mine is, I was in Costa Rica. It was probably like 2005, probably summer 2005. My friend Nina and I went, and I was in Manuel Antonio at the beach, and my ears were just like below the water. So everything was like muffled. I couldn't really hear things, and it was warm, and I didn't have cell reception there because this was like 2005. And it was just beautiful. It was like one of my favorite, I mean, I was studying abroad. I was like learning Spanish, but it was one of my favorite experiences. So I go back there. I remember what I was wearing. I remember like having to hide things from the monkeys because they'll steal it from the trees. Oh, it pulls me right out of any thought cycle or negative spiral I could be caught in. So that's my other tip. And then another thing that we can kind of utilize therapeutic tools for is something known as solution-focused therapy. Now, what solution-focused therapy does is it has us, instead of focusing on the things that we're lacking or the things that we need to improve upon, it utilizes our already existing resources and the strengths that we have to move us forward. It focuses on the solutions, okay? And it starts off by asking us a simple yet difficult question, which is sometimes called the miracle question. And that is, if you woke up tomorrow and everything was better, you didn't have any issues, ailments, no mental illness, how would you know? Now, I know for some of you that might be very simple. Like you're like, oh, I didn't have any back pain. But I want you to take it further. I want you to tell me in your relationships what would be different. I want you to tell me about like, what would your situation be? Maybe you're like, I get to go to the grocery store and I don't have to worry about how much stuff costs. I get in my car and I'm not upset that I have to fill up with gas, right? Those might sound like small things, but they're big. And it's really important for us to recognize all of the ways that we would know something is going right, then look to the resources we have. Maybe you're really great at connecting with people online. You have a great community. Maybe you're part of our community. Or maybe your strength is in, I don't know, in like really creative outlets. Like, oh, I can really like express myself through writing or coloring or music or whatever it is. We focus on those things and we utilize those resources and those skills to help us get to that like that magic answer, right? The miracle question, like having all of those things line up. We kind of track back to figure out what would that mean and what does that tell us like our issues are. We're not focusing on the issues, but like if it was the fact that we went to the grocery store, we're not worried how much things cost, that means that finances might be a struggle. Okay. So then what skills and resources can we use? Maybe we create art through our pain. Can we maybe sell some of that on Etsy? I don't know. I'm making things up, but you get what I'm saying, that solution-focused therapy can be a great option for those of us who find ourselves pulled so quickly into rumination, so quickly into these negative thought cycles. Because I've heard from a lot of you that journaling, which could be another resource, another tool, isn't something that you like because you find yourself getting caught in those negative spirals. And so if that's you, I still want you to journal, but I want you to focus on answering that miracle question each and every day. And if you get kind of sick of it, you can move into, what are the things I'm grateful for? I want you to come up with like 2 to 3 a day. It can start off by things that are simple, like I can see you. I can hear your voice. I woke up. Magic of all magics, right? And so those are just some of the ways that we can kind of break that pattern, pull ourselves out of the rumination cycles, and hopefully get us on the track to feeling better. Because I know how easy it is to slide into that. I know how easy it is to focus only on the negative. I know that I've done it myself. I do it all the time. But these tools and tips and tricks can really help pull us out and stop us from only making our problem grow. And instead, we can see that there's other things out there. The problem's not the only thing, right? We have a lot of things going for us. We have a lot of skills and resources and things that we can do. Let's focus on that for a little bit. I hope you found this helpful. It's just something that's been like mulling around in my brain because I see all your comments. And while it's important for us to understand ourselves, we don't want to get caught in this loop of just making our problems bigger and bigger and bigger. If you want me to keep talking about this, happy to do more research. Let me know in those comments down below. Please like and subscribe. It really does help. And I will see you next time.